What are some tips that people can learn from the article about how to fast track the recruiting process?
The number one, customize your interview invite templates. And so, if you have a system that you're already using, you may be able to build it out as a template in there. And if not, then you could, simply just drop it in a Word doc and just cut and paste it. But having a template, one, is going to save you time. But some of the information that you should be including in it is also an FAQ of the questions that you receive from candidates. So again, it's just kind of speeding up the time frame of back and forth questions about, is this going to be on Zoom or is it a phone call? Simple things that can eliminate the back and forth. That's number one, customizing that interview template with an FAQ.
Yeah, I think the more you can address questions, the more you can create a frictionless experience and get people excited. We kind of look at it from the other side in a separate role for business development for us, right? So we're even looking about what are some of the things we can do to answer questions up front? What are some of the questions people may have if they're unsure about working with us? And the same goes in the recruiting space because part of the value of doing this is communicating your employer brand as well. What are the things you prioritize? What are the things you don't? How good is your communication? How bad is your communication? So an FAQ says, hey, here are the cards. We're laying them out. We're going to fulfill the promises along the way. And we just want you to know that we value you. So we're going to put your name in this email and it's not going to be, a BCC
Right,
or,
right.
something that looks like a bot.
So true. And I think that's a really great analogy that you used. I'm often saying we need to do everything possible to make it as easy as possible for either a prospect, in the example that you shared, or a candidate to say yes, right? And to say yes quickly, as opposed to, well, maybe, but let me send them an email asking, like, how is this going to work? At that point, you've already put yourself at a disadvantage, whether it's on the sales side or on the candidate prospect side. So number two is, and this one's so important. I feel like we talk about this internally with our clients so frequently, and it's maybe sometimes overlooked how important it can be, but it is clearly defining the job requirements up front. I mean, how many times have you had a hiring manager say, well, let me just shoot you over a couple of bullets and just post this and see what we get? That's a terrible approach.
Well, I remember that's the post and pray. That's the post and pray strategy.
Right. And so perhaps, Joey, if we were having this conversation a couple of years back, um, companies were still doing that and perhaps having some relative success, right? Because the competition for that same candidate was a bit different. And while I still don't think that's an effective approach, for some it was working. And so maybe that's why they continue to use it. But now when we think about speed to hire being one of the most effective strategies for not having to get into bidding war for the same candidate with other employer, one, you need to ensure that you're not wasting your time or the time of candidates for a job that's not a good fit. But just that process of, okay, we've gone through candidates that have applied to this position. We didn't really have a lot of them that were a good match. So let's go back and rewrite the job posting. Like, you've already lost so much time. And if you did have any candidates, they're likely not going to be a good match. So, very, very important part of the process.
Yeah, I think this is such an important conversation because one thing that I see with clients that we work with, and even just Summer, I'm sure when you're out and about with friends or folks that may be hiring, that there's always that back in my day we did 7 interviews and we had panels and we really had to get the recruit through the ringer. I even think of that saying, hire slow and fire fast. I think now we have to revisit that hire slow and fire fast to say hire efficiently, train effectively, and then fire when there's no chance that the person's going to work out. So now part of it is, getting the right people and getting to the right person quickly, but then realizing that there's a responsibility you have as a hiring manager to train, develop, and coach your way of success, and making sure that the hire works out.
That's solid advice. And I would also say that when we think about some of the things that can help fast track the interview scheduling process, I would say one of the kind of older school practices is, well, we really want to see more than one candidate because we don't know how they compare. And I'm here to say that that approach is going to put a company at a serious disadvantage because you're looking for the grass to be greener, or you want to see if the grass is greener. And I'm going to say that also that if that's your approach, your grass is going to probably die before you have the chance to see if the other option is greener.
I gotta get on my soapbox here because that is such a big pain point. And I want to make it clear for those who are paying attention to the show, and you're paying attention because you care about a great experience. Otherwise, a show about HR wouldn't even be of interest to you in the first place. But your comparison when you're evaluating candidates, you're not evaluating them to other people. You're
Mhm.
evaluating them to the job description and the culture of your organization. So it doesn't behoove you to, wait until you get all candidates and then you want to see some more and then you want to date some more. No, you want to find the person that best aligns with the job description, not the one who dresses better than the other or communicates better than another or has a degree from this school versus that one. No, you're aligning to the job. You're aligning to the job, the job, the job. So I got to get off my soapbox, but that is something that if I see a client try that approach, like, oh, we're gonna be here for a while because it's not gonna work, and the best candidates are gonna be gone.
Yes, and it always pains me when when we actually have to uh, kind of watch this happen before maybe a client or a hiring manager is willing to trust that what we're saying is true. But sometimes that's kind of the way that it might go. The last item that I wanted to chat about on this topic specifically was just one last tip, because if you go and read this article, there's 11. We just don't have time to cover them all. But one of the other tips that is a time saver is, and it's kind of a two part. One is finding out blocks of time from the individuals that are going to be participating in the interview process, and having them already pre blocked out so that if you talk to a hot candidate, you think that they definitely need to be scheduled for an interview, then before you get off of the call with them, you could say, hey, well, we'd like to talk to you again. And the next person in the process has Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at these times available. Which one can we book you for? That's one option. And the other one is also still having the folks that are part of that interviewing process block out their times, but then setting them up with a scheduling tool like a Calendly so that you can just shoot that off, and the candidates can then just pick a time that works for them. That's going to like definitely expedite the back and forth of that traditional email communication process.